Can you talk to me about some of the deployment stuff? Because you did OIR and then Somalia. Were those coincided together, or is that two different deployments?
So I only did the one deployment when I was with 122 in the fleet, and similar to what you were talking about with word shifts, timeline shift, I received a call when I was finishing up training, like, hey man, it's good you're coming out here in June. We're going to deploy like that winter. And then it became the next summer, and then it became that winter. And I showed up summer of 2018, and due to everything that happened, also throw a little COVID in there, we don't end up doing our workups until the summer of 2020, in the middle of COVID, which was its own challenge. And I will preface this by saying that this deployment, it was a MEU, Marine Expeditionary Unit, so the 15th MEU off the West Coast, and even our voyage plan changed. Like, we, here in advance, we get briefed where we're going to go, so we can kind of think about that, kind of tailor our training towards the AO that we're going to be operating in. And even that shifted, and COVID really made things very challenging. But we set sail, and initially it was game plan. We knew we were going to spend some time in 7th Fleet, and we were going to sail around in the Pacific. We were going to stop by Japan, Hawaii, like get refuels, refits. Like, ships need to, many times, generally the U.S. Navy has a very impressive logistics operation they're conducting worldwide at all times. So there's a lot of things you can receive at sea, such as fuel, food, mail, all of that. Either ships will pull up alongside, and they'll either connect the cables and run all that stuff over. They'll have helicopters come and drop it all off, do vert reps. So a lot of that you can get while you're still sailing, but some of it you will pull into port briefly. Some of the heavier items, some things that can't be airlifted. And so we knew we were going to go to some places, but we combined our two last workups with our deployment because of COVID. It was such a struggle to deal with the ROMs, the restriction of movement, and COVID protocols, and
that's
all
a new one for me. What's ROMs? Man, go classic.
So
make an acronym out of that.
Oh man, and not fun. Like, I will preface all this just so that if any of my tone comes across a certain way, it's the way it was. But we were going to combine our last two workups with the deployment itself.
That's a super positive way to look at it. Because I don't know, I was talking to my buddies who F-35s, and they were just telling me like the briefings and like the shenanigans that went on. Whatever, I'll say it. But it sounded like a super painful time. Like, I would jab a pin in my eye if I was walking around the squadron and had to go sit in a brief and do this and that, and then how they're managing, people, so close contact. But again, it is what it is. I hadn't heard ROMs though. That's a fun one.
Yeah, before we got on board the ship for our last workups and to set sail and do all of the fun stuff, we were ROMed on base for 2 weeks, and I lived 12 miles down the road, and we'd already been restricted to our residence. So it's not a commentary on that policy, just merely not a great way to start a workup. And to
this is just how it was.
Say goodbye to your family. It's just how it was. You say goodbye to your family, and they know you're in a building 12 miles away, and
that's rough. Yeah.
Yeah. Them's the bricks. But
yep.
We end up on the ship. We do our workups. We set sail. And like I said, we kind of had our voyage plan. We knew that we were going to end up in the Arabian Gulf. And we set sail at the very beginning of November after getting on the boat in October. And then around the middle of November, I think at this point we had done a quick stop by Japan, Hawaii first, then Japan. We basically received short order tasking to basically beat feet, steam as fast as the ship can when we're not doing flight ops, because the ships have to vary their speed for flight ops. But it's like, hey, spare no delay, go and get off the coast of Somalia so that we could conduct operations supporting Operation Octave Quartz out there. And we get briefed this in the middle of November, and it's like, oh, okay, when's this all starting? And it's like, hey, you guys are going to be there December, get there. And so short order tasking, within 2 weeks, we're off the coast of Somalia, and then we're doing operations there. And kind of given a TBD with that. It was just, we're going to be there. We're not exactly sure how long. And Operation Octave Quartz was the relocation of DoD assets as well as some Allied force assets from certain bases in Somalia to other locations. And how that worked out for us and our piece in it. Also, there was a carrier that showed up later and was conducting similar operations with their Hornets, and I had a buddy on that carrier as well. We basically were placing ourselves in the overhead, ready to provide CAS in support of any kind of hostilities that popped up, or if there was any kind of threat that showed up that day, because Al-Shabaab had been quite active in the time previous to us arriving. And we knew a lot of the relocation was done with C-130s. And there was all kinds of log flights moving in day out. So they knew that presence would be noticed and would be cataloged and very easy to see it happening. So we were there just kind of providing overwatch. And sortie durations were about 4 hours long and just kind of scanning as best we could. You probably heard about our T-FLIR in the F-35 and how it's kind of it's built in, it's got a laser, it's got all these fine capabilities, but the image quality is not necessarily the best.
Right.
Yeah, so working through that and getting good with using it. And I guess one funny aside I have there is I've got a good buddy of mine. He's in my squadron now. We're talking to the JTACs. You check in and you're just burning and turning, just hanging out, go to the tanker, come back. And we have maps, we have charts, we have diagrams, and we're, looking at MSRs and entry points and standard stuff. But he's looking through his T-FLIR and he sees like a bunch of movement, and he starts getting a little spooled up. Like, tells the JTAC, like, hey, I've got something here. Like, give me a second. Let me wheel around to the other side real quick. But like, I don't know. It looks like they're heading towards like the ECP or whatever. And the JTAC's starting to get a little excited too. Like, whoa, is this it? Like, is this a big deal?
We're going to do something.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, it might be like 20, 25 military age males. I don't know. And he's like going. And then when he gets back around to get a better angle and he looks, he says the first thing he notices is he started counting legs, and he noticed that most of them didn't have 2, they had 4. And so his pod had actually uncaged on a goat herd and a herder.
That's all.
So the JTAC's like, I'm running to get to a better position to get eyes on. And he's like, yeah, herd of goats. Never mind. Sorry, my bad. Yeah.